Hey y'all, grown black folks are back out on the climb in dappled sunshine today. I spent a considerable amount of time in the last 2 days sitting in direct sunlight. And what you learn as you begin to get older and become wise is that you kind of observe how your body reacts over the course of 2 days like that. Yeah, me sitting 2 days for that long in that much direct sunshine with it above 80, not today. Not today. So I waited a little bit later and found some dappled sunshine, and we're at the beginning of a cool breeze. It'll be still quite warm tomorrow, but cooler. After the heat of yesterday with Miss Williams, there's a couple things I want to do a roundup on. I want you to understand something about, for those of you in the United States of America, but really for those of you across the Anglo-Saxon world who may be living. Let me explain to you the lie that Eboni K. Williams and many of you are choosing to believe so that you may know that you have another choice. And all these choices have consequences. The lie upon which the United States of America and a lot of the Anglo-Saxon world is predicated on goes back quite deeply into British history. That is, only the nobles and the royals mattered. Everybody else was just a version of chattel. Whatever they want to do to extend their legacy in the world is what the populace had to put up with. So if you were not of noble or royal birth, who are you? Someone to be ground under at will. All the different wars in Europe basically have to do with the fact that go ahead and cross back over into the fall of the Roman Empire, so take everybody there, arguing over who's going to rebuild their empire in the ruins, and then all the common people. And all the people, not Greeks or Romans, in this time period, however people chose to reconstitute themselves, were just chattel. That's just the nature of the beast in the United States of America to this day. It is a highly Greco-Roman based society in that respect. Now, to the extent that true Christianity has impacted all of these societies, you do find a counter-narrative. But that is not that moment in the United States. It never was. When you go do the math on how small the relative population of the Pilgrims and the Puritans actually was, then you will understand that. How many people came here to live their imperial dreams, or at least their dreams of living like the nobles of Europe? When you understand what the proportion of that is, then you'll have a better understanding of what's going on. Because the Constitution itself says only white land-owning males have a vote to choose representatives. And in addition to that, Alexander Hamilton, I believe, had the temerity to say, and I owe this to my friend Dawn, who's, I don't know, she's on YouTube, but if she sees this, I want to credit her. She's now said this to me twice. Alexander Hamilton was saying, well, not even all white landowning males need to be represented. We want them to have a certain amount of intelligence. Now, I'm not entirely in disagreement about the rationale, but I'm like, sir, you don't have enough people represented as it is relative to the population of the United States. Now, fortunately, the United States developed so that over time, with much bloodshed, much conflict, the right to vote is tentatively in the hands of everyone. But it is tentative because the major assumption of the founders remains in place. If you're a white landowner male, you matter. And if you're not, you don't. You don't. James Madison, who wrote the Constitution, was sitting up there talking about, why do we need a Bill of Rights? You're not supposed to have any rights if you don't fit our classification. He had the temerity to say in the Federalist Papers number 10 that the point of the Constitution was to factionalize the society so that the worst sort of people could never get together and take things away from the better and best sort of people. This is all in print. All of it is a lie. A satanically inspired lie. That's all it is. Because Satan wants to make it so that certain people will do his bidding so that he can win his contest, although it's inevitable that he will not. He needs to have a group of people who is willing to give him his Antichrist. And the Antichrist must come out of the former Roman Empire. The legatees of the former Roman Empire are Europeans. Therefore, it must be that these people will be willing, and of course not all, but understand culturally, to do business, because that will finally give them a European world empire. It is inevitable that it should be this way. It is still all a lie. Now, And having said this aloud, even though it's perfectly well delineated, it's been in print for a long time in the books of Daniel and Revelation with some others, that it must be thus. There are certain, if you do not decide to cop to the lie, there are certain things in life that you need not expect that the world system will ever grant you. It is what it is. If you cop to the lie, the world will reward you in certain ways. Eboni K. Williams did not come out and do this foolishness after black women defended her for no reason. She wants men and children as another accessory to her high-powered life in the world system. One of my commenters, I don't have it in front of me, so if I can't say your name, please forgive me, noted that in her response to Dr. Martin, she talked about a child as if a child were a chattel. Well, if a woman believes that she is a chattel and has the right to put other women in chattel status, then of course the child is the next step down. Of course. Because again, you don't have any intrinsic value if you believe the lie. Only men who are most being chosen by Satan to do destruction in the world and attempt to destroy the kingdom of God have value. Now, it was not always European men. Every group of men has had their day to be Satan's best agents. Every group of women has had their day. African Americans are, with our African root, belong to the group of people that started civilization. Everybody had their day to do the foolishness. And then they were discarded. See, it's not that the true and living God is throwing away Africans. That's not it. It's just that we're not in the civilization top spot right now. And because of that, Hegel observed this very well. The world spirit has moved on. And of course, Hegel got his own German nation into a world of hurt by suggesting that the Weltgeist was picking Germany as the next ruler of the world. That was a costly decision. Believing the lie is always costly. I know that people have different opinions about religion. However, I'm going to just tell you this. There's only one true and living God, the maker of heaven and earth. Now, we may have arguments about identity. We may have arguments about gender. Confidence with love is probably the strongest goddess worshiper I've ever met. I've known some of the strongest. She and I are not going to agree on this. We agree to disagree because there's no need to argue about it. If you are a Muslim or a Baha'i or a Rastafarian, I know where you stand, or you practice indigenous African religion. And there's as many of those as there are tribes in Africa, little variations on it across that whole region. We're not going to argue about it, but let's do this. Let's at least get off these mortal men. I had a German I was talking to tell me, he said, my village is 3 times as old as your whole country. And I wanted to say to him, but then decided not to argue the point. And the reason your village was not rolled over by the Soviets is because of the Marshall Plan. So, but I didn't. There was no need. You have to, again, because is he that important in my life? No. It's just like you have to now at this point, even in this economy, even decide to ration the insults, because some people are just not worth it. European men are not all that. They are not always going to be worth getting put in their place by me. Not that important. If you take pride in the fact that your village is 800 years old, you go right ahead. And that's the thing, y'all. We don't have to argue everything with everybody. Just understand that if you choose to believe that only certain lives matter, then you're going to then deal with the consequences of that running up against reality with a capital R. Let me tell you the flip side of this. There are a whole lot of black women who believe that only black men have value. And that is going to run up against reality with a capital R also. Remember that I told you, when you go back into civilization, Africa was on top. The pharaoh was no mean individual in that day. Akhenaten, famous for being monotheistic, for returning Egypt to monotheism, the worship of the sun disk, told a whole town of people, get up and move it over here because I'm going to build a temple over here. Everybody got up and they went. Okay? Akhenaten, no mean individual. Haile Selassie II, or Menelik II, to keep it in Africa for a minute, and also to get some more modern ones. No mean individual. Nelson Mandela, no mean individual. The refounder of South African civilization, and Frederick Douglass, who assisted in the refounding of the United States of America, a nation in which all black people were finally counted as citizens. No mean individual. These are people who could do that, but they're not God either. And neither are their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And if you put them in that position, you're going to deal with the consequences of that. Before we even get to what actually the numbers say about this, it does not matter. You assigning all value to one small group of human beings is just a lie. I don't care whether you do it based on the lies that the founders of this country want you still left for you to believe, or whether you just kind of follow the general trend where we go all out to protect black men from this, that, and the other, whereas all other men understand the responsibility to protect the women and the children. And not all of them completely. Don't misunderstand me. But in other groups of people around the world, you don't see this kind of behavior. You don't see men generally finding reasons to devalue someone who shares their same ethnic background. Now, there are ways in which men devalue women as a matter of course, but they're not necessarily coming up because they understand that if I devalue my sister, I am her brother. So if I come out in public in a country that already sees me as less valuable if I'm not white, or if I'm trying to maintain the idea that white men are the founders of a superior civilization, it makes absolutely no sense unless I have so lost myself and any sense that I have value that now it's just a competition and fighting for the bottom. I used to say that a lot when I was a Themis and Thought moderator. People are fighting for the bottom. Stop fighting for the bottom. Don't deal with people that fight for the bottom. The other thing about this is when you realize that people are dedicated to a lie, no matter how much you defended them, you gotta let them go. Eboni K. Williams, nope. We are done with the whole idea. Even though she is a black woman, even though she's going to get knocked around again, she is. It's inevitable. She's chosen to invest in a lie. Dr. Raquel Martin pushed back and took that woman in circles. And that's what needs to continue to happen. Because see, what's going to end up happening is nobody respects a traitor. We all went hard for Miss Williams when because she asserted her right to have a man who's in ownership class just like any other black woman. Now she's out here telling black women who need their education more than anyone else because, again, black men have not ever, as a unit, been able to provide a standard of living that compares. And we can always talk about how that's not black men's fault. No, we're not talking about whose fault it is right now. We're just talking about the facts. As a unit, without black women's labor pitching in, this does not exist. I thought about this today. In any generation, my father would be rare, born in 1936, a black male sole provider. His father worked 3 jobs and his mother worked 2. So no, I don't have a long step of black sole providers. That's just not a long thing. My mother's father, though, was a black male sole provider. My grandmother did do things for supplementary income, but she didn't have to leave the home to do it. So, sole provider with some supplement. And there's nothing wrong with that. Even back at the Proverbs 31 woman provides supplementary income. There's nothing wrong with that. But the point is, that's rare. If you go back, I have my father on one side and my grandfather on the other side. And here's the rub. My grandmother adopted my mother. So Nathan Harold Phillips, who I honor so often, my birth grandfather was a very different type of man to him, which is why God arranged that I wouldn't be dealing with that, and neither would my mother. I can't even get lineally, actually, back 2 generations, but thank God Nathan Harold Phillips chose to become my grandfather. Black male sole providers are not common. We had this idea that back in 1950, this is what was going on. No. I met my birth uncle. No. No. He said to me, all the people that own business in the family, that was all the women. Confidence with Love actually has been saying this on her channel for a long time. And I'm just sitting there listening to this and I'm like, oh. Now, I do need to say on balance that it is true today that 70% of black business owners are men. But I kind of have to look at, okay, how much of that is a reference to how many older men there are? I don't know the answer to that. But it is true that in terms of post-integration, this is the situation we find ourselves in. So I do need to balance that out. And I'm not even saying that there are not black men who have done the best they can, along the way. Certainly that does exist. But at this particular moment, the idea that marriage is the answer and that black women should sell themselves out by measure has never been the case. That has never worked for us. Ever. In slavery, black men couldn't do enough to keep it going. That's why our foremothers were imported. Now, granted, couldn't have children alone. Nobody can, to be fair. But the facts are the facts. It is also a fact that the movement toward freedom for real also did not start till black women got here. Nat Turner, 1831. In Haiti, the women were essential. And when Boukman, I'm not recommending this as a course of action, but I'm just observing it. When Boukman went to ask for spiritual help, it was a goddess, Izili Danto, who showed up. I'm not saying that this is necessarily a good thing. It is just a fact that it took the women to do the impetus toward freedom. This is documented fact. I say again, had there been an Adam Wells doing the work, Ida B. Wells wouldn't have had to do it. Had there been a Harriet Tubman, there would not be a Harriet. It wouldn't have been necessary. So the whole idea that Eboni K. Williams is putting out here is an idea predicated on several sets of large disproven lies. Several sets. One, put forth by the founders, a woman has no value, except that she's useful to a man. And only as long, because only white men with property have value. Number two, black men are more valuable because they're men. And the best thing a black woman can do in her life is to sell herself to a black man while young. We're not going to even talk about the numbers on are there enough educated black men available. Men in general in the United States, and this was said in one of my comments, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to recognize where I got this information. It wasn't Sammy Bliss, but I don't have it in front of me. I'm out walking. That doesn't even account for the number of educated men that may not be available because men in general, college education has been declining. So if there are already more black women than there are black men, and then the number of educated black men in terms of college education is going to be smaller, how's this supposed to work? Is it even a reasonable expectation for black women to be selling themselves at 18 and 25 to men who do not exist? Now, I will disprove another lie. There are more black men in college than there are in prison. That's true. This is true. We're not also addressing the fact that those men are being told that the black woman isn't worthy. So even if these black women try, they're out looking for someone else. But you know what? Again, because I'm not a hypocrite, I'm not going to be mad about that. I happen to notice in this beautiful sunshine that we have had, the numbers of black women who are out enjoying their lives alone, like me, beautiful women, are with other races. I also observe, I don't have a dog in the hunt right now because I'm not hunting for a man. I also observe that men of all races tend to treat me as a human being. So I'm not locked down to try to find my father's exact physical image. I just happen to observe, because I am a single woman, when I'm doing interactions or I'm out, who just pays me basic respect. Now, I'm not like Confidence with Love. She just talk about tithe. Just tithe. I don't require a tithe. Because as a Christian, I already know that's not for me. Y'all need to read the whole book of Malachi. But see, so Walter Jones has done that show. I'm not going to do it here. But no, the tithe is not for today, according to the Christian. But that's a whole different set of issues. You can tithe if you want to, though. But you're not compelled. So I'm not going to ask for that. But I notice who does not feel the need to devalue me for existing immediately start making calculations. There are men of other races who go out of their way to provide me with this idea that they respect my womanhood. They go out of their way. And there are still some black men too. And of course, I reciprocate. A smile is free. A thank you is free, but it goes a long way. And I do that with all humanity. I mean, that's a different video about learning how to recognize all humanity is human. But see, here's the deal. My father has lived in San Francisco when it was blackity black and the black community was real, all the way down to where he rarely sees a man by himself. And I don't see my dad treating people differently. He has people in our neighborhood of multiple colors who just adore him. My dad just has it like that. Because he understands his own humanity and he understands that of everybody else. My mother, same thing. My grandparents, same thing. So we don't look at people and try to figure out where they are on the chattel scale. Nor will I ever agree to be with people or support people or defend people who do. This is why the foolery over Rhoda Osmond was so painful. Because that also means that I can't defend black women who think like that. I can't defend black women who think like Eboni Williams. Because see, here's what knowing the truth and walking in it gives you, and it's your choice. If you choose to walk in the truth, you are going to lock yourself off from some of the rewards that promoting a lie will give you. However, believing the truth gives you peace, good conscience, and freedom. Make up your mind what you want. Y'all have a good day now. Goodbye.